Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about two things that could actually flood your car in the fall season when the leaves are falling, and they both have to do with leaves, and I'm going to show you how to service them. This is so simple. Anybody can do this. You don't have to pay a mechanic to do this for you, and it's actually not in the maintenance books, not something that really talked about, and I see so many cars get damaged and destroyed and totaled because of something so simple. In this video we're going to be talking about the sunroof drains and the cowl cleaning. I'm going to show you how to do it, some precautions, and kind of the theory behind why we're doing these kind of services. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you are a return subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the first thing, the sunroof. So let's talk about the theory first, and then we'll talk about how to actually do this service. Every sunroof is basically an open hole in your roof. The seal around the sunroof is not designed to keep the water out, believe it or not. It is designed to slow it down so it would drip basically down through the opening. Now, every sunroof, around the opening, there is a tray. It's a sealed tray that contains the water and is sloped in a specific position where the water will drain either to the front or to the back. Depends how the car is parked. There are 4 drains on each sunroof, at least in the Toyota Lexus world. One here, one in the back, and then the same on the other side. Now, what happens typically is, with time, and especially on cars that are parked outside, and this is something I see over and over and over. First thing is mud, debris, dirt, cars that are not regularly washed. You have all this mud and stuff caked on the car. Now, over years, that will find its way into the drains and eventually clog them. Now, that is the normal cycle, and we're talking possibly 5-10 years for that to happen, if that. But what accelerates that and makes it happen instantly, just like that, is when you have leaves added in the mix. You know, every fall, the trees drop all the leaves, and that's just the normal cycle. So to some people, this is how the fall looks like. And to some people, this is how the fall looks like. To me, this is how my fall looks like. Normally, I have a lot of trees around my house, and I have a garage. I park my cars here, but occasionally I will park my car outside. I'm filming here or whatnot, and they'll get leaves in them. And the first thing I do when I pull my car back in is get these leaves off the car. Because when you leave leaves just sitting there, and when you add water to that, leaves are dry, they'll start crumbling and breaking, and that will actually, eventually, the first time you open the sunroof, all that goes in and starts clogging the drains. Folks, I cannot tell you how many cars get totaled every year through the dealership where I work because of sunroof drains that are clogged. It is something so simple and ridiculous to fix that we're going to have to address it here. And please, even if you're not a DIY mechanic, even if you've never really worked on cars, you need to do this because it is so simple. You should not be paying someone to do this. And actually, I recommend you do it every year. When the fall is over, clean them. And when you're going into fall, so you only have that small window that you need to take this procedure, do it before fall, so you're ready for fall in case debris falls in, and then after fall is over, so you make sure you go into winter with them clear. Now, one thing I will say, the drains, the fronts are the ones that always get clogged. Very, very rarely will I see a car with the rear drains clogged. And that just happens to be the convenience of it, because the front drains are super easy to access, and they are the ones that take you literally 5 minutes to clean. The back ones, very difficult to get to. You got to remove the glass, and you have to really look in there, and sometimes you won't be able to get them. And that's just the way it is with the rear drains. So luckily, the rear drains rarely clog unless you leave the sunroof open and leaves fall in and debris. Then they don't really clog. So we're going to be focusing in this video on the front. And one thing before we start, this only applies to sunroof, moonroof configurations, not panoramic sunroofs. Panoramic sunroofs are completely different. Some of them actually don't have a drain. They just have a run channel that drains directly on the windshield or in the back glass. So that's different. We're focusing on sunroofs and moonroofs of Toyota and Lexus models. And by the way, this actually applies to all cars. Most of them are the same. So feel free to use this procedure and this basic tool that we're going to recommend here for any other model. First, let's locate the drains. So the first thing you're going to do is just open the sunroof all the way. And then once it opens, and this might be Toyota Lexus only, once it opens, you want to hit open again. It'll actually open a little bit more further back in some models. So the first thing is locating the drains. Now, every car will be a little bit different. Every model will be a little bit different, but I'll show you a general outline. The drains will be right in this area, in this corner. And on that corner right there, this wind deflector, you can actually push it down if you need to see where you're going and locate the drains. That's the first thing you're going to do. The second thing, you're going to want to test them. You're going to leave the deflector up or down, however your preference is. Grab a little bit of water and pour it here. You're going to want this water to collect in this tray area right here. Don't spill it inside, not on the headliner. You got to be very careful how you put the water in here because you don't want to wet the inside of your car. You're going to look at this water, how it's going to go to the sides and drain down, and you're going to see it drain underneath the car. Now, if water starts collecting here and not draining within a second or two, you got a clogged drain or a partially clogged drain. Let's talk about the tool that we're going to use to clean this, because there are some bad methods out there that I want to warn you about. Now, some people will tell you just put compressed air, blow that thing out, it'll clear everything up. But the problem with that is compressed air has too much force, and if that drain is clogged, you're actually going to create a back pressure and you could pop the hose off the sunroof. Look, folks, I've taken sunroofs apart. All it is a little clear hose that attaches to a little nipple that comes off the sunroof housing, and it has a little tiny metal clamp, and sometimes some of them don't even have that clamp. So it doesn't take a lot of force to dislodge it. So you can imagine the disaster if the sunroof drain hose detaches from the sunroof housing. It is a disaster. You're going to have basically open rainfall inside the car. Do not use compressed air. That is my recommendation. And Toyota's official tool to do this, believe it or not, there is an overpriced tool to do this. This is how that looks like. Works, of course, the best. It's great. It's designed for this. But you don't have to go and spend a small fortune on a tool. There is something on Amazon, a few bucks, something just looks like this. It's actually, it works on sunroofs, but it's actually designed for other stuff, kitchen sink, whatever. It's basically just a tiny little brush and a flexible metal rod. That's all it is. You're basically like cleaning a drain on a sink. It is long enough where you can actually go through the hose and make sure it reaches. Now, a few precautions about this. This is metal, and this is the same thing with the official tool from Toyota. This is metal, so be careful when you're going in there not to scratch the car. You're basically just gonna find the drain, push this into it, and push it as far as it'll go. And when it stops, that means you reach the bottom. It is not very long. I estimate, all the length of the A-pillar and down to the ground almost. That's if you want to guesstimate how long you're going to want to push it. Don't force it. If you reach a dead end and you're just this much in and you know you're not all the way at the bottom, you're going to want to start twisting it. That actually starts carving into any blockage that you have, and you go down. Let me do this one side so you can see how this is going to look like, and we'll move on. So we're going to take our flexible hose, kind of lean it into the car. I found that to be the safest way. You're going to find your drain. And that's it. Just keep pushing it until you reach a stop. Now, some of these will be a little bit difficult, like this one. This is an ES350. It is a little harder to get to the drain. There we go. That's all it is. you're just going to want to push this all the way in as much as possible and then pull it out. If you encounter resistance, start spinning it. Just spin this. You will want to curve this as much as needed. By the way, folks, this is on my Amazon affiliate store. It's super cheap. You can use it for multiple things. Just go over this drain, go over that drain, and life is good. It is super simple. I wish I can get the camera a little closer here, but this particular car is a little bit difficult to see. I'll show you this video right here, how the drain should look like. This is basically how they're all going to look like. Some of them will be a lot easier. This one is a little bit more on the difficult side to reach it, but the basic idea, you're basically clearing a hose, push this in, twist it if you need it, take your time, be patient, push it as far as much as you need to, and life is good. Do the same for the other side, and you're all done. This is very simple. It just took 5 minutes, that's all. Let's talk about the cowl cleaning, but first, let me open the hood on this Lexus and let's see if you see the problem right away. Do you see anything out of the ordinary other than the engine is very dirty? I usually clean the engines for my video. Well, let me zoom in and I'll show you the problem. There it is. Doesn't look very serious on this one, but I've seen some that get so bad it is ridiculous. Leaves on the cowl. Let's talk about that for a bit. You see, most people look at these leaves and other than their unsightly look, they don't think much of it. But here's how this little amount can snowball into your car being totaled because it flooded. These leaves sit here and usually they crumple up if you open the hood, close it. As you drive, they're dry, they'll start crumpling up. You notice there are openings on the cowl right here. On every cowl, on every car, you'll see those openings. You want to guess what's right underneath that opening? The cabin filter. Specifically, when you have your air conditioning on fresh air, this is where it's going to take the fresh air from. Well, the problem is these leaves or the crumplings of those leaves, and we're more interested in the small stuff. They're going to make it down and they're going to sit on top of your cabin filter. Not a problem there, everything's great until you go to replace that cabin filter. You pull the cabin filter out, and because of how small the opening of these cabin filters is, you're going to kind of skim the top layer that is sitting on top of the cabin filter right into the blower motor. Now, if you've done this before and you have big enough leaves that fall into the blower motor, you're going to have a noise, like a ticking noise from the blower motor. You're going to shut it off, pull the cabin filter, reach in the blower motor and pick up those leaves. But here's what you actually did when you did that. You broke small pieces of these leaves that stayed. They no longer make noise. You called it a day, shipped the car. But those leaves, as soon as you turn that blower motor, some of them got chopped up and thrown right into the AC box, HVAC box. And then guess where they're going to collect at the end? At the very bottom. And guess what happens when you do that and it collects at the bottom? You clog the drain of the HVAC system. Many people wonder, why does my HVAC drain keeps getting clogged and then you get that sloshing sound, you make turns, and all of a sudden my passenger front floorboard is wet. Why does that keep happening? Why does it not happen to everybody? I have never had a AC drain clog in any of my cars. Well, there's no secret. It all starts right here because the HVAC box is closed. There's nothing goes in it. The other exception is if an insect crawls through the hose that is underneath the car and goes inside the HVAC box and they get stuck in the hose and clog it. But usually it is this stuff that clogs the hose, not insects crawling up. This is a lot more common. But the problem is, okay, so you're active about cleaning your car and you always pick up these leaves or use compressed air to blow them out. But see, that's the mistake. When I pick up these leaves and I crumple them, especially when they're piled, this is not too bad. When I pick up these leaves and when there's some of these cars, you get mountains here. Mountains of leaves. I mean, especially in the fall, if you park outside, you clean it, 2 hours later, they're back. You pick them up with your hand, you crumple a bunch like that. Well, you just broke a bunch of these pieces and they're already down there. You're wanting to prevent this. And the other mistake is, and this is shops, I see technicians where I work, they see those sleeves and they're trying to be nice to the customer. They take compressed air and they blow it out, let it fall, and life's good. Well, actually, when you did that, you pushed some of it inside. Do that year after year after year, the AC drain is clogged. And guess what? You're going to say, well, this could take 5-10 years. I'm not worried. Well, it only needs to happen once for your car to be destroyed by water inside. So prevention is key here. And prevention, we're not talking you got to do a very expensive service. You just got to get these sleeves out the right way, not blowing back in and kind of defeats the purpose of cleaning them to begin with. I'd rather at that point you leave them alone. And the secondary benefit to doing this is where the fresh air comes in. And if you have all these sleeves here, bundled up here, and they get wet, you know, when you have leaves and they get wet, they start having these weird smells of decomposing dead leaves and whatever, and you're going to get the bad smell. Now, don't mistake that with the common bad smell. We'll talk about that in a different video, but this is how things start. So, having said that, let me show you the right way to clean this, which will take you not even 5 minutes. Take a vacuum, turn it on. That's it. You did not push any leaves in. You pulled them all out. And any debris, some of these cars will have a mesh here. Any debris, you pulled it out. It's done. It's as simple as that. Doesn't have to be a fancy, schmancy shop vac. You could use the vacuum from your house. Well, your wife might be upset that you're using it to pull leaves out of the car, but if you explain to her the cost of totaling car because of a flood, she might give you a pass. But use a shop vac, folks. A lot of people just use compressed air. Don't do that. And don't pick them up by hand. That's even worse. You're just going to push the stuff as you're crumpling and picking it up. Folks, I see so many cars get, again, flooded because the AC drain got clogged. And then when we take things apart and I pull it, I actually can pull a bunch of leaves from the HVAC box. Once you pull the drain and pull it, there it is, a bunch of crumpled up leaves. And when you pull your cabin filter out, you gotta be very careful. If you see one leaf on top of that cabin filter, like kind of stuck in the pleats, there is more inside. You gotta also, this is gonna be a little bit more difficult, but this is going to the next level. Go in with a vacuum on top of the blower motor, or better yet, if you're handy, pull the blower motor out when you've had leaves on top of the cabin filter. Clean it up, and now you have no chance of adding to the clogging of the AC drain, because this is so simple and it yet can destroy the car. Well, there you have it, folks. This was super simple. The combined total investment of time is like 10 minutes, maybe $10 in the investment for the tool to clean the sunroof. This is that little stuff. See, in all my videos, I tell you guys, you gotta take care of your car and it'll take care of you. This is part of it. I'm not talking, you know, you have a big problem. Alternator went out on a V6. I don't expect a DIY to be able to just jump in and do a 3 to 5 hour job and do everything perfectly and not struggle. It is the little things that makes a big difference. Makes you either just an average car owner or a car care nut. It's this little things. Keep it up. Keep up the basic maintenance. One of the things that saddens me the most is when the customer of the car that got flooded talks to me face to face. Why did this happen? I have owned 10 other cars and this never happened to it. Why did this happen to my car? Now, the first question is this the first car with a sunroof that you have out of the 10? Yeah. Well, okay, there you go. Well, how come there is no recall on this? That's the first question. There is no recall for leaves falling in. This is, unfortunately, it is not a maintenance item that you gotta maintain, but auto manufacturers take it as common sense. That's how they see this, and the sunroof drain is a bigger offender than this. The Cowl situation, this takes a little bit longer to get there, but the sunroof drain does not take much to clog it. It's a tiny little hole, as you saw it. It doesn't take much. Actually, sometimes when it gets really bad, you can look at the hole of the drain in the housing, there's leaves piled up there. Just pull them out, life is good. And another thing, I'll add this just as a bonus. In the trunk, right around the trunk seal, that is another area that leaves love to collect. And eventually, and we're talking about super neglective owners that see leaves piled up there and they don't even clean it. They pile up so much that you open the trunk, some of these leaves kind of buff up like that and they sit on top of the seal, and you close the trunk, well, these leaves just push the seal down and now you have water just raining inside the trunk. Not as serious as the rest of it, because the trunk only has one mat and it's not going to really do as much damage as going water inside the interior, but still, this is how it starts. If you don't have a garage, you park outside and there's a bunch of trees around you in the fall time, you got to be active on this. And if you really don't want to deal with all this cleaning and all this hassle, there's another solution. Cover your car when you let it sit under a tree if you have no other choice. If you have a choice, don't park it under the tree. If you don't, either be overactive on the cleaning or just cover it up. It's only, fall is really only a month, maybe a month and a half. It's a hassle, but trust me, losing your car over a water intrusion because of a clogged sunroof drain is a lot worse. I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.